Beginning transmission 139. God Country. File under Family Drama.
Come on, you fuckers think that just because a guy reads comics he can't start some shit? I'll fucking take all you want!
Welcome to this week's episode of the Funny Books and Firewater Podcast.
面白い本と歌手ポッドキャストの今週のエピソードへようこそ。
Ignore her. She drinks.
Each week a motley band of comic readers / amateur bartenders attempt to pair cocktails with comic books.
毎週漫画の読者の雑多なバンドはスラッシュアマチュア入札しようと漫画とペアカクテルバーです。
All while trying to not sound like complete morons in the
すべ
process.
ての中にしようとして音ではないような完了プロセスで低能です。
Kind of like a speakeasy kind of thing. It's kind of cool.
You can find these idiots on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr.
Facebook、Twitter、Instagram や Tumblr にこれらのバカを検索できます。
No, what?
You read too many comic books.
We now join Brian, Jeremiah, Adam, and Todd.
They're used to curious sights which they attribute to alcoholic delusions.
They may be drinkers, Robin, but they're also human beings.
I'm too sober for this shit. Here is a drinking game to play while you listen to this episode. Please drink responsibly, and don't take it too seriously. And if you don't like it, blame William.
Take a drink anytime Mr. Porg decides to interject himself into the conversation. Shut up, Porg.
You need to take a drink anytime Manny Bothands makes an appearance, and I get groans and fuck yous from Adam and Maya.
Fuck Manny Bothan!
Manny Bothan is pure genius. Take a drink anytime someone refers to me as the cum dumpster.
Take a drink every time the Shame Bell makes an appearance.
Also, take a drink anytime we act like the member berries from South Park. Remember when they were on South Park?
I remember. Yeah, and take a drink every time we do the bad German accent, yeah.
Ah, drink, fucker!
If you have any suggestions for rules you would like to add, email us at funnybooksandfirewater@gmail.com or use the contact link on our website, funnybooksandfirewater.com.
Oh, I wish I would have caught that. You want to try that again?
No. Yeah, dude, lightning in a bottle.
The moment's passed.
That's right.
You're not my trained monkey, god damn it.
No, but epic Texas fantasy battle.
Well, you're ahead of the game, man. We're not there yet.
I know we're not there yet, but really I think about different ways to describe what we're going to be talking about, and I'm like, there's no improvement upon that.
Yep, that's what it says on the back of the book.
Exactly.
There's no improvement there. It's just awesomeness and wahoo and
Wahoo.
yeah.
Okay, well then we won't waste any time, so we'll get to your epic Texas awesomeness. So hey, welcome to episode 139 of the Funny Books and Firewater podcast. This week we are continuing on our December theme of family issues, family drama, I should say.
That's absolutely true, and I've been thinking about this with family issues. So December, and as we're recording this a little bit ahead of time, kids, this is very much the season of family togetherness and get together, and
if you want to call it that.
So said
Family
drama going on.
Drama. Hence why we picked it, because we're cynical bastards. But
we are cynical. It might be a little too on the nose.
Oh, you think so?
We're going with it. It's great. It's like, what other time do you bitch about family drama? I'm like, Christmas, of course. That's when everyone who hates each other gets together.
That's true. Well, it's also the highest rates of suicide are right around Christmas as well.
But people
Merry
dying.
Christmas.
But January is when old people die.
Yes, because they get through the holidays.
If I just make it through this one last holiday, then I can go.
So, speaking of old people dying, as we record this, about a week ago, Stan Lee passed away.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
which we put a little thing on our Instagram account, because that's far more topical, sort of. That's a little more up to date than that.
But we just want to make sure we mention it.
Yeah, by all means. And I saw one of the more touching things I saw online, because there's a lot being said, though, but there was a wonderful drawing done. But it says the only one in the Marvel Universe who knows this is Deadpool. Because he breaks the fourth wall and all that.
Oh, that's true.
Thing. So it shows a picture of Deadpool, like, hugging the tombstone of Stan Lee and just, like, tears coming out of his eye things or whatever. I don't know how you cry through that mask, but he was, and it really was quite touching. He's like the only guy in Marvel that knows. he's gone.
I knows what's going on.
Yeah.
That's a valid and depressing point. Thanks for starting us out there.
You brought it up.
So, actually, I have a question about that.
I didn't bring it up. Yeah.
So, I haven't read any of it, but with Gwenpool, she does the breaks the fourth wall and kind of like Deadpool does?
Yes, completely.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Deadpool, or Gwenpool, which I love, and I just bought the second volume. I'm waiting. I have it. I haven't read it yet. But the idea of Gwenpool is that she is a comic book fan from our universe who gets sucked into the comic book universe, so she is fully aware of everything.
Oh, okay.
So that's sort of where her Deadpool kind of aspect comes into. Her name is literally Gwen Space Pool is her name, but they put it out as Gwenpool. So, and she kind of has a mask like Deadpool, but like she has a similarity to Deadpool, but she is different. Well, that's fine. Okay, so I have this cat here, which I was going to discuss. At first, I thought the cat just missed me and would meow when I showed up at home and things like that. I've started to feel like the cat's just upset that I'm in its space. I think the cat now thinks that it owns the apartment and is really annoyed when I come home now and just meows at me like, "What the hell are you doing? Like, stay in your corner." I think that's the vibe I'm getting now from the cat. I think it's taking claim of the space.
So what I hear is when cat people die, the cats just eat the face of the owner.
I've heard that as well, yes. And I would not...
It depends on how well you fed them, yes.
So
that's true.
There is that.
Yeah, there's a cat in the background.
The cat loves you so much, it will eat your face.
It's true.
Don't dogs do that too, though? If you're dead long enough and no one's found you, they go after you just because they need food?
Probably. I mean, at a certain point in time, you stop smelling like you and you start smelling like meat. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
That's true, but
I can't really blame the animal for that. You know what I mean? It's not like a lack of loyalty, at least not in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. It's just a lack of food.
Yes, exactly. It's a survival instinct at that point in time.
And you didn't.
Yeah. So, okay, well, we are morbid as fuck today, apparently.
Family drama in the holidays, and I'm like, that's also fitting, unfortunately.
Sort of.
There was a great meme I saw. It was like, do you think over Thanksgiving dinner your racist uncle's like, oh shit, that open-minded nephew's going to be there?
Oh, that's actually really interesting. I bet you it probably is the case.
That's sure. And I saw the variation on that. And it's like Thanksgiving, the one day a year when your racist uncle has a field day type of a deal.
Yeah. He gets somebody to listen to his racist rants and whatnot.
Yep.
But actually, yeah, we won't get into that. Anyway. Okay, cool. Well, welcome to episode 139, Jason.
Panel intro.
So we'll start out with you. So we have joining us a returning champion, our good friend, independently wealthy, Mr. Jason.
Hi there.
I say independently wealthy as in you are independent from your wealth.
This is also, that is very accurate, yes.
I think we all are independent from our wealth, but...
it's slowly leaving me.
Yes. Cool. Also with us, the rest of them in the great state of Utah, we have Mr. Maya.
Hey, it's Maya. You can catch me on Twitter at Mr. Maya and Instagram at the Mr. Maya, or follow my cat on Instagram and Twitter at It's the Jonesy.
Who is not nearly as loud as the rest of us.
She can be.
Yeah. Which, Mr. Maya, I was reading a book which I'm thinking about recommending for us to do at some point in time, and I have an idea for a theme for next month, which I will bring up later, and this would be perfect for it. But there's a character in the book named Ridley, or is it Ridley or Riley? What's the female name in the star in Ripley?
Ripley.
She's named Ripley, and at one point in time, she encounters a very large animal that she is riding around, and she names it Jonesy, which I thought you would appreciate.
What book is it?
It's Lumberjanes, which is going to be my recommendation for this week. So, anyway, was it this thing I was going to recommend? We have an agenda. We're all over the place. I'm going to have to. We've talked in lots of weird places. Anyway, speaking of trying to keep to the agenda, we have Mr. Todd.
Hi, I'm Todd. You can find me here as a co-panelist on the Funny Books and Firewater podcast. You know, just sitting cum dumpster adjacent and the Maya. And sometimes I do other podcasts, but we really need to do that other one.
Yeah, my mom's already harassed me about that a couple times.
Yeah, it needs to happen. And then, so find me around. I reside here in Salt Lake. Come say hi.
Just go out on your porch and yell, Todd!
And you'll show up.
You speak the devil, and here I am.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a case of that. So, yeah, that's what's up there.
Okay. Speaking of the devil and cum dumpster himself, we have Mr. Adam.
Oh, you guys say the nicest things to me.
Just for you.
Speaking of which, did Todd, did you bring the gift for Adam?
I did not, because I will.
Son of a bitch.
I know. Now it's becoming funny.
I'm never going. This is gonna be the gift that, like.
Oh yeah, let me get that for you.
The gift that never keeps on giving.
You know, this gift is going to be. I'm going to be the Jimmy Kimmel to the gifts Matt Damon.
Yeah, for sure. Note to self: don't give stuff to Todd to give to everybody else.
Too late.
Speaking of which, Mr. Maya, your Infinity Gauntlet, beer gauntlet, is on its way to Todd's house, so he will have.
Oh, you ruined it.
Well, harass him about it. That's not what we sent for Adam. Also, Jimmy Martin's is there as well. So
yeah, I'll get it to Jimmy.
Yeah, which is funny because I'll see Jimmy on Friday, so I could have given it to him, but he didn't text me till after I put it in the mail. So whatever.
That's how it goes,
That's his own damn fault.
Exactly. So sorry, I stepped all over your intro, Mr. Adam.
Oh, that's fine. After all the nice names you call me and everything else.
Oh, sweetheart, you know I love you.
We love you so much. You were a great mandate the other day.
It was. We had a really good. We went and saw Neil Gaiman.
And, you got to go with Todd? That's cool.
Yeah, we did that. And then I hunted down. We went to the Red Door, and they had a bottle of Aviation Gin. This is the gin company Ryan Reynolds bought with his spare change. And it really is quite fantastic. I had 2 gin and tonics with this stuff.
I had one as well.
So, and I'm not a gin fan, but I got a second one. So it was actually,
that's saying something about that gin.
It is. So I almost bought a case of it because you can't just buy it at the liquor store here in Utah because of rules, I guess.
Yeah. Well, like I was saying, there's a bourbon coming out that's going to be Game of Thrones themed. And
Okay.
I don't know if it's out
Tell
yet.
me more.
No, it's called Johnny Walker White Walker.
Yeah, that's what
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Are you sure that's? I thought that was whiskey. Isn't Johnny
It's a
Walker?
whiskey.
Yeah, Johnny Walker's whiskey.
It's a blended whiskey. It's only you're supposed to drink it really cold.
And I think it's out. You can.
Yeah.
I was gonna order it and send it to my dad and have him send it to me here because we can't have alcohol sent to Utah.
Oh, you can. You just have to buy it by the case through the Utah State Liquor Store.
That's way too much for me to buy.
Oh, it is, and I hear it's not very good. But
So apparently there's multiple kinds of this. The base one starts for $35, and then you've got the nice one. The House Lannister one is $90.
But if you put the bottle in the freezer, it'll say "Winter is here."
Oh, really?
It gets cold, and it goes away when it's warm because they use some sort of funky wrap. So,
if you want, I can look for it in the great state of California, where drinkers can actually go shopping and buy things that they would like.
Wouldn't the great state of California like winter to be there and have those fires go away?
No, because then we're gonna have flash floods.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's gonna be a bitch.
Let's just get snow instead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we'll just have flash floods later. we'll just hold on to them for a little while.
So there are 3 whiskeys. You've got the House Tully, which is the $35 one. You've got the House Stark single malt Scotch, which is a $60 one, and then you've got the House Lannister, which is $90.
All right.
Okay.
And what about the White Walker one?
Yeah, the White Walkers.
That's all I came up by. I can look for the other ones too.
There's another one about like Johnny Walker, the White Walker. Or
I have it
something
saved
like
in my.
Oh, there's 8 different ones I see.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, there's like one for every house, and then the White Walker one I think is in a black bottle.
It should be in a white bottle.
I don't know.
That would make sense.
It would make sense, but you know.
Oh, the Night's Watch is its black bottle, and then Johnny Walker just came out with its white water. There it is, right here. There's 2 different companies making them. That's what it is.
They're taking all the money. Game of HBO is just milking this thing for all they can.
So anyway, Adam.
Hi.
Hi. Tell us about the wonderful things that you do.
I'm the reviews editor for Big Shiny Robot. Also, occasionally doing the Bored as Hell podcast with Andy Wilson.
Hi, Andy.
And also over at Cinema Queens with our good friend Chris.
Hi, Chris.
And aside from that, you can find me at Twitter, on Twitter at Sithbot_, SITHBOT_, and curating our Grindr, Scruff, and Tights with a Z account.
Yes.
Which I wish really existed, but that's a totally different issue. I'm kind of wondering what kind of celebrity or superheroes we would end up picking up on that side as well.
People actually hear that and go to look up tights and realize it isn't real and that you're just full of shit.
Yeah. You honestly should. I mean, I've got some friends who code, so we really should open that up.
Download the Tights app. Where the fuck is it?
Come on, I want some tights on tights action here.
Send your complaints to funnybooksandfirewater@gmail.com.
You son of a bitch. At least we're not cinema queens.
Damn right.
I told Chris about that, and he's really excited for a bumper sticker.
At least we're not cinema queens.
The goal was actually to put it on there and not tell you about it to see how long it would take you. He's like, I never look at the back of my fucking car. I would never.
I have a new connection for stickers. I might talk to him about it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And hey, I'm Brian. I'm a sound designer based out of Southern California and a grad student at the University of Denver. And I haven't started classes yet, but I did use my student discount at the Mobster Museum in Las Vegas a couple weeks ago, so I'm pretty proud of that. So that's about as official as I need it to be.
Book intro.
And this week we are doing God Country, which is from Donnie Cates and somebody named Shaw, Wordy, and Hill are the art team. This was a recommendation from, I think, Todd, probably. This is one of those books that Todd was trying to get me to read for forever, and then finally I did.
It's been kind of hard for a while.
Would not shut the fuck up.
Aren't you guys grateful?
God.
Well, Todd, do you want to give us a brief little overview as to what this is?
Sure. So it's a 6-issue book, one and done. So after the end of this trade, there is nothing more. It is complete. So you've got that going for it. For now, there's always the sequel. They'll make it work, bring back from this or something. But it starts out in West Texas in the prairie area, and you've got the son taking care of his Alzheimer-ridden father, and then out comes this supernatural event of a big-ass sword that has its own mind. Grandpa touches it, regains his faculties. The owner of the sword wants it back, and he says, just you try, come and take it. And it goes from there.
Myification.
And what is the myification of this book, Todd? As according to the back of the book.
Epic Texas fantasy battle.
Is battle on?
Battle fantasy. Epic
battle fantasy.
Texas battle fantasy. I mean, they could have just named the book that. It's been just as fitting. So, yeah.
Drinking game.
Well, so that being said, now that we have an agenda, Maya, I don't know why I'm giving you shit about that. Let's just jump into our drinking games. Anybody have one they want to go first with?
So mine's called the Sword of Swords. Every time they say the name of the sword, which is Valifax, what do you think?
Mr. Jason.
Yeah, mine's just called the Quinlan. And anytime the name Quinlan is spoken or shown on the page, take a drink.
Mr. Todd.
The name of mine is called Grim Determination. Every time you've got a character that goes, yeah, well, this sucks, but we're not giving up. We're going to see this through to the end. Take a drink.
Okay.
And it's more than one.
Mine is, I call it, it's all your fault, which is every time the son and his wife argue, take a drink to cope. Yeah. Yeah, that was one of my more evil rules. And Mr. Maya, what is your drinking game rule?
Mine I'm going to limit to once per page, but it's called Father's Day. And it's every time the word father or grandfather is spoken.
Okay. Any combination of the word father.
Validity votes.
Well, then let us jump into votes as to whether or not we think that it is worth you, our dear listeners, hard-earned time, money, and effort to go hunt this book down and read this little gem. So we'll start out with the guy who recommended it because I know exactly what his vote is going to be. Mr. Todd, what is your vote?
Fuck yeah. Read it.
Okay.
Or read it again.
Mr. Maya?
Yes.
Mr. Adam?
Yes, definitely.
Mr. Jason?
I also say yes.
Okay, and I also say yes. I got everybody correct.
You did.
There's one extra name here to have to go through, and I'm always concerned that I'm going to leave somebody out because I feel like an asshole when that happens.
Well, you should.
Thanks so much.
Playlist.
Okay, well, so then, do people have songs that they're ready with for a playlist to play along with while you are reading this book?
Yes.
Okay, well then, Mr. Adam, what is your song for this book?
Mine is The Origin of Love from Hedwig and the Angry Inch.
Mine is The Man Comes Around by Johnny Cash. Todd, what is yours?
Mine's it's a recent song, somewhat recent. It's Glenn Campbell's I'm Not Gonna Miss You.
It's depressing as hell.
Depressing as hell.
Mr. Maya, what is yours?
I went with Thunderstruck by AC/DC.
Cool. Jason, you need a second more, or are you good?
I would say it's a song by a guy named Hugo, Old Time Religion.
Oh, I love that song. That's a great song.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's got that nice sort of country rock sound to it, so I think that fits.
You know the weird useless fact about Hugo that I know?
Tell it.
Hugo's actually on Jay-Z's record label. Jay-Z's the one who actually found him and put him in.
99 Problems is fantastic.
That's part of the reason why he did that is because Jay-Z's his boss. So
I love that song by you, though. I'm like, dude, great.
So, there's some weird, useless information about that guy. I mean, and I love his stuff, but that's just one of those weird things that I happen to know about it.
Jay-Z's, we'll have him on the table. Like, does he care? Fuck, I don't care. I say
Final warnings.
Do we have any final warnings about this to people? Things that we think that they need to know before they go into this?
It will hit you in the feels.
Yes. Both this week and next week's books are very hit you in the feels, at least for me.
There is that. So you need if you need a moment, it's like, oh, I'm just going to idly whip through this thing. You're really going to miss out on a lot. And it might it hits you in the feels. Yeah. That's how I'm going to put it.
Agreed.
Well, if that's about all we have, then we will take a brief little break. This is your chance to go and read the book for yourself. We all highly recommend that you do, especially get some nice feels going on there. All of that good stuff. So we will see you on the flip side.
If you have yet to read this week's book and would like to read it now, press pause. Go ahead. We'll wait.
Now, sissy that wow. Hey there! Are you queer or some variation of it? Well, I'm Chris, and this is my co-host,
Adam. And welcome to Cinema Queens, where we talk about queer cinema.
Each week, we watch beloved queer classics, discuss them, review them,
and cover a whole cluster of topics from our favorite scenes,
what they mean to us,
how it relates to our current world,
and the best part, the cherry on top of the sundae, happens to be
gay rants.
So prepare your ear holes
and listen to us Queens talk cinema. New episodes drop every Monday on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Bye-bye.
Well, so welcome back. Todd, since this is your recommendation, do you mind if I throw you under the bus and have you do the plot summary?
A little bit. I don't have my book with me, so.
Does anybody else want to do it? Did no one bring their book to class today?
We've all got it. We got it digitally.
So I have a Windows Surface, and Comixology with the Surface is only through the browsers, and it sucks balls.
Okay.
So that's my challenge there.
Would you like me to do it then?
You do it.
Sure.
You're so good. I'll interject.
Plot summary.
We start out, we're out in West Texas. A guy gets the cops call him over. His dad has been kind of causing some trouble again, so he goes with his wife and his daughter to check up on his dad. His dad is very obviously has Alzheimer's. The little girl wants to go see her grandpa, and he kind of freaks her out by yelling and screaming and whatnot. So they sort of kind of run away. Well, so they so the old man, he kind of goes off wandering by himself, and while he's out there, a storm sort of breaks up, and the family gets knocked over, and there's like a tornado that sort of rips the place apart. And these demons, who kind of look like Dementors, come looking for the little girl. And all of a sudden, the father has gotten this big giant sword named Valofax, and he smites this demon, and he suddenly has all this power and saves his little girl. And then you see some sort of ancient creature, a god looking down from above, who wants to get the sword back. It seems that with the sword, Grandpa actually gets sort of this. He gets his memories back, and he gets he's cognizant again. And so basically, the son, knowing that his grandfather or that his father has Alzheimer's, is sort of not necessarily completely thrilled with him having a giant sword. Asks for it back. His grandfather says no, but his grandfather also uses the power that his sword helps him wield to completely rebuild their house, which has been destroyed by the tornado that sort of broke down, which is right about the time that this giant god shows up. The sword tells the god to kneel, and so the god realizes that the sword actually has chosen who he wants to wield it, and so he decides that he's going to back off. So the two of them sort of go for a walk, and they discuss, the fact that this is this ancient sword, that it is essentially every time someone, talks about any famous sword, the Excalibur or anything like that, that's Valofax. It's sort of a combination of all those swords. And the grandfather has sort of flashbacks to his entire life with his wife and all of his fond memories that way. Sort of like he remembers all these things, even the disappointing things, but he's still happy that he has them. Basically, the god is about to go back to see his father, who is sort of like the Odin or whatever of this world, and he asks if if he has any message for him. And the message that Quinlan tells this god is, come and take the sword if you really want it, basically. So then we sort of flash back, we go back to the family. They're kind of enjoying life. I love that there is a Simpsons reference here where the beer they're drinking is Duff, for those of you who didn't catch that. So Grandpa has the sword. He's sort of, he's sort of hanging out with the daughter, and the sword starts to glow again, and Grandfather knows that something is about up, and that he's going to have to go do something. He sort of finally has a conversation with his son, and he gets attacked again by one of these little Dementor kind of things. And so he goes and he looks up, and there is like this giant horde of these Dementors that are about to attack the house. So he's defending his family and the house from this. All these metal blades, stuff like that, come flying through the house, and he's just basically trying to defend his house. So this evil god shows up, who is sort of controlling all of the old people, and Emmett Quinlan decides that he's going to take on this god. The daughter, the little girl, the granddaughter has been taken, and so the grandfather has decided that he's going to go, and he's going to go kick some ass. So he's going out on search for his granddaughter. These creepy demons are still lurking around the house, so the mother and father are sort of trapped inside the house. The father goes into this nether world where he goes and finds this sort of evil god, and he has the little girl there. So he basically calls on to sort of like this, the demon kind of calls on the spirit of Quinlan's wife to sort of like haunt him and make him sort of, forget and drop the sword, which then gives the demon the chance to grab the sword, but the sword does not want to be with the demon, and the demon sort of disappears. And as well, he basically gets old and sort of dies. But also, what ends up happening is the image of the wife sort of disappears and into the dust, all the end of the most recent Avengers movie. And so Quinlan gets the sword, punches the shit out of this old ancient demon, gets his granddaughter, gets the sword, and gets the hell out. Takes it back to his son, and he's now ready to finish this. So he jumps into sort of like this wormhole and shows up on this planet about ready to kick some ass. So he goes up and he is talking to these people. They take him out to show him what war is going to be like and say that he's going to fight. They fight. Big epic battles, stubborn fool. Am I missing anything here, Todd?
Oh, keep going.
Okay. So things are exploding back on Earth as well. And Dad comes back as a huge god now with he's beaten his previous fighter, and now he not only has the sword, but he also has Thor's hammer to a certain extent. Not really Thor, but the same equivalent. So he drops off the hammer, and he basically sort of realizes that his son's family is not necessarily his own family, and so he kind of gets the idea that he's going to need to sort of take the sword back to its home so that it can be with its own family, its own kind of thing, and that, he's basically about to sacrifice himself. So the family is waiting for Grandpa to come back, and they're talking and they're bonding. Grandpa is out in this sort of epic space battle, fight. He fights the evil god sort of thing. He ends up throwing the sword and killing the guy, and the sword comes back to him after he kills the god. And then he beams himself back to Earth, but is basically nearly dead. All of his memories still sort of intact as he's sort of dying. His son ends up holding him, thanks him for saving his family and all that kind of stuff. And then one of the son of the god ends up sort of going back and helping finish off the job. The sword is left in the dust. Grandpa has sort of disintegrated and saved the day, but he is now dead, and the family gets to move on. And this epic tale is sort of over. Did I miss anything by that very brief sort of run through of this book?
Nope, that works. Nope, that's it.
Analysis.
It's awkward because there's lots of little emotional moments in there that I sort of blew over just for the purpose of getting through the actual plot. So let's jump in on where things got hit in the feels right away. So Adam, what are your thoughts as far as the points in this that hit you right in the feels?
I think the biggest thing for me is that dealing with the fact that the grandfather has Alzheimer's. Because, my relationship with my dad hasn't always been the best ever since coming out. That was, he is deeply religious, and I still get texts every so often saying, "Well, I'm going to hell." That being said, talking with my mom, she's saying that it's looking like he's probably in the early stages of Alzheimer's. Like, he'll come into a room, forget why he's there, he'll like have his keys in his hand, can't find his keys, that kind of stuff. And my dad's also a very stubborn person, so he won't go to the doctor for it, which is annoying us because, like, if this is what's happening and you are, have early onset or you're showing signs of it, you definitely need to go see someone because there's medication you can take that will greatly, extend your life and also give you a higher quality of living.
Mm-hmm.
So, and again, it could just be he's just being forgetful. We don't know because he won't go to the damn doctor. So, seeing that play out here as far as with, someone who isn't all there, who's going through this, and knowing that can be very well something I might be facing with my own family soon was kind of a punch in the gut because that was, that's might be a reality. So that was kind of hard. And just the fact that he, like the sense of relief that he found finally getting his memories back, knowing who his kids are, knowing who his granddaughter is, things that, we take for granted that we remember people. And as stupid and weird as that sounds, when Todd comes over, like, I know what we've done, we went and saw Neil Gaiman, and I don't, being a very empathetic person, I often wonder, like, what it would be like if, all of a sudden I woke up one day and I didn't know who anyone was because, either something had happened to my mind or I just lost it all. And so that was sobering. And also the fact that he was willing to sacrifice everything for those he loved. He knew getting rid of the sword would basically cause him to go back to who he was and he'd lose all the memories he just found again. So that the idea of sacrifice is really important too.
Well, and it's also kind of one of those things of, it's almost more painful to be losing that and then also realize what you have lost. You know what I mean? Or he becomes very painfully aware of what he is sacrificing through the course of this because he remembers everything and because he's made whole. I mean, if he had stayed sort of with Alzheimer's or just sort of this crazy patient, or this Alzheimer's patient who doesn't really remember things, he wouldn't necessarily know what he sacrificed. But he's deliberately aware of his son's family and what he's trying to provide for his son's family and for future generations and what he had and what he's lost. And so, like, it makes the sacrifice a little bit bigger than I think it would be otherwise. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the tragic thing, too, is, if he were to give the sword up, which, he then wouldn't even know what he lost. It was more like of knowing what those actions could cause that would lead to that.
I think part of the other thing he wrestles with is watching as he regains the sword and he remembers everything, but he also, I bet he remembers how he was. And if he just gives up the sword again, he knows what he's going to return to, and then the hardship that also places a budding little family that's just threatening to tear it apart. So I was like, if I just give the sword up selfishly, because it's not going to do this, it's going to rip my family apart. And so he's got this, there's really only one pathway to go.
He has to sacrifice it where he's sacrificing himself as well, or else. I mean, unfortunately, that's the way in this situation of doing the least amount of damage.
In a weird way, it's actually kind of an argument for euthanasia, because when he...
I think there are a lot of euthanasia. I mean, it's a very fast-growing country. There's a lot of young people. Sorry. Terrible joke. I apologize. I'm sorry.
Now sit in the corner. Think about what you did. Before he had his faculties, he obviously didn't have control and wasn't able to make the kind of hard decisions that later on he feels is the best for not only him but for his family. I think that's a very interesting topic that not a lot of other comic books or TV shows, movies in general want to delve into, but I'm glad that this one did.
Almost makes me wonder if Donny Cates has dealt with Alzheimer's in his family or with loved ones.
It feels very personal, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, and started this off, one of the things that I mean, we'll wrap around it too well, is this is, by the description, it's an epic fantasy battle. All of those, and Texas, all those things are crazy impersonal.
Yeah.
But this starts off, and it brings you to these characters in the most private, personal, painful way. So all of a sudden, is you have empathy for the grandfather as he comes back through. At first, you kind of hate him, and you have empathy for the son being torn of taking care of dad, and then his wife, and the wife, fear of her safety, and he's like, he's torn between two places. So this, how quickly we just feel for everybody going on here is really kind of incredibly done for something that's rated of this very huge, like, once again, huge and epic is not personal. So they've started something and made it incredibly personal at the beginning, and it snares us right away that we're in there for the rest of the ride wherever we may be, and that's been done so beautifully well.
Mr. Meyer, what are your thoughts, being a Texan as well? I haven't heard a whole ton out of you yet.
I liked you for a reason.
I mean, it hit me in the gut. I also have dealt with family members that have gone through this. My grandmother went through dementia and a bit of Alzheimer's before she passed away, and it was it sucks. And I like the idea of, going back to, this is probably a personal story for him, maybe wanting to make that person that he saw suffer a superhero, essentially. Like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say. I just thought it was a really good book.
Okay. Yeah, I heard your action to Todd was that you were finally upset at him for picking a good book.
The last time we came over and attempted to record this, he's like, "Why don't you pick a good book to read?"
Mr. Jason, what are your thoughts?
Pretty much the same as what we've been talking about before. I like that there is this difference of epic scale and also very personal, human, tragic story that they're going through. And I think that boldness and dichotomy is just a really interesting thing that they've decided to do, not only in the scope of Texas, thinking that that's already a huge landscape, and then there's the world of the gods that is even bigger than that, and going back to sort of the expectation of what you're going to see with a title like God Country, and it starts with just this one little family just trying to struggle to get from one day to the next, and it does a good job of flipping your expectations of why you might have chosen this particular book and what you're eventually going to get out of it.
The other thing I would like to just mention, I mean, as much as I think the writing is wonderful, and I don't want to downplay how well written this is, I'm really a big fan of the art in this book as well. It has sort of a quality that reminds me of the Alan Moore run of Swamp Thing, I think, a little bit. But it also gets into some of that, like when they go into the other planets, it gets into a little bit of that sort of like almost 60s psychedelic sort of stuff that you would see from like Thor books and things like that. But I think it does it all really, really well. Like, it does locations really well. It does emotions like incredibly well. Like, there's this panel right towards the end where there's just like this single stream of tears running down the grandfather's face that is like just heartbreaking, as he's about to let go of the sword and sort of, is having his last memories of his son while his son's holding him there. Stuff like that. There's some just really cool, powerful visual moments in this as well. When he's transitioning from one location to another, and fighting these different demons. Like, I was really, as much as I was impressed by the writing, I think that the art was also like a really well done addendum to this whole story.
Oh, it is fantastic. Yeah, the art is great. You've got these glorious vistas in Texas, and it does it's somewhat. You watch. If you read Secret Identity, as we've done in the past with Stuart Immonen doing the art there, he has this very pastoral feel to that whole story, and it feels a bit angelic. Yeah. And this one definitely has a layer of menace. I mean, as it goes over it, and even with it's a lot of things are said about Texas, but kind of cuddly doesn't often come with it.
Yeah.
So even when you're in Texas and it's beautiful and looks great, but there is a sharpness there, there's a layer of menace there, and they go to the other places, and it's a lot in the tones, but you've got the ghoulish aspects going on and the demonic beings. You've got the Kingdom of Always, the ruler of that, and everything's a menace. And as you watch with the writing, a little bit back to that, as I've been thinking about this entire story and all the inflection points, as you see all the decisions, it's a series of goodbyes. So you see him, he regains the sword. If I give up the sword, he's going to say goodbye to who he is and what's going on, and he's trying to chew, what am I going to do about this? He's like, no, I'm going to hold on to this sword. I'm not going to say goodbye to who I am. Then his granddaughter gets taken away, and it was a good and he's realizing the loss of his wife again and using that there and saying goodbye to her again, and he's making that determination. It's like, no, we're not going to have this going on again. My son will not say goodbye to his daughter, so he goes back to do it. The son has a moment saying goodbye to dad. Even the son of the ruler of the kingdom of always is coming back through, and he's going, and it's a series of goodbyes. I mean, looking at the series, all the major, it's about saying goodbye and then going. If we're saying goodbye, it's going to have to mean something. But as you watch as the story is structured, there is a moment of goodbye, and then it goes on to the next thing. And that entails and the loss, and they're saying if this is going to happen, it's going to have a meaning behind it. And it's done beautifully well. Yeah,
it's about having the agency and choice to say goodbye when you want to.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So sometimes it has to happen. You don't have a choice, and other times you do have a choice. But let's make this goodbye meaningful. It's not going to be meant for nothing. We're not going to make this happen again. If we're gonna say goodbye, this is going to be it, and we're going to stop it from continuing. So. Yeah, Donnie did great. And that art again, I mean, even you've got the floating whales in the city. I mean, you've got the City of Tomorrow has a very Asgardian, or City of All has a very Asgardian feel to it. The sword, in some ways, I look at that thing and I'm like, is that bigger than the sword in Final Fantasy VII? It might not. I don't know.
It looks like actually Cloud's ultimate weapon.
It does look like
it.
It looks like Cloud's ultimate weapon there. And Velofax claims to be the sword of all swords. And you've got Excalibur, which is just one, like a sliver manifest of what Velofax is. And the sword is fully self-aware and everything else going on. And it's guiding the story. And it's itself is saying goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
As you watch it. And yet the house gets destroyed in a tornado. And yet it's rebuilt by the sword, and that's the standing thing. And as the story very much ends, you see the granddaughter has kids of her own on this, and saying, well, let me tell you this story of this house and the people that inhabit it, and you don't know what this means, but this truly is incredible and awesome. So yeah.
And it's also the fact that, as temporal as life is, and eventually, because they always say, like, once you're like 3 generations past that, no one will know who you are unless you were Mark Zuckerberg or something like that. And what I loved about the end of this with that is that even though the grandfather isn't there anymore, he had to make the sacrifice. His legacy will still be remembered, at least in this family. It'll be something that's passed down. So in a way, he does become immortal.
He does. And what I really loved when that house got rebuilt, imperfections at all. It's like, well, this door sticks. This is exactly how it was.
Yep.
Let's not try to put a rose-colored vision on this. This is absolutely the legacy, but remember, this is what it was.
And it's definitely a metaphor for, you can just, the house being rebuilt is for a family in general. I mean, families go through hard times. You could be maybe you had to declare bankruptcy, or, a child died or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And, horrible things can happen. And that's when you really have to rely on each other and stay with each other to rebuild that house, rebuild that foundation. But just as much as that the house was rebuilt with a sticking door, those scars still remain. So again, it's showing that you can rebuild and go on. You can, have a good normal, quote unquote normal life. But that doesn't mean that some of the pain isn't going to still be there. It doesn't mean that life's going to be perfect afterwards, but you still have a way to rebuild.
Sure, and move on.
Okay.
Who says we can't go deep on this show?
We can go deep.
We do go deep on the show.
The dick fart and cum dumpster jokes.
Deeper.
Yeeper.
Yeepers. Yes, and deeper. That's still just... That's
I should be in a drinking game rule anytime someone says yeeper.
Yeepers.
Yeepers. But it has to be said like that. Yeepers.
Cocktails.
I could use a drink right now.
That's kind of what I was feeling right now. So.
Let's enjoy those deep, dark drinks we've got going on.
Okay, well, Mr. Adam, what is your cocktail?
So mine is Grandpa's cough medicine. It's basically taking a hot toddy. You take a half cup of boiling water. Thank you. 1 ounce of whiskey, a teaspoon of honey, a teaspoon of lemon juice, 3 whole cloves, and 1 cinnamon stick. You add it all to a cup. You stir to dissolve the honey. You steep for 5 minutes, and then remove the cloves and cinnamon, and just sit there and enjoy your alcoholic beverage.
Your alcoholic beverage?
Alcoholic beverage.
Okay. Mine is called the Excalibur, or it's Excalibur cocktail, because of the sword. I think someone else has one that's named after the sword, but the sword claims to be all these different great swords, and they mention Excalibur by name, so I'm going to go with that. It is... Oh, man. These are in metric.
You can do it.
What does CL stand for? Is that centiliters?
Centiliters.
Yeah.
So it's 2.5 centiliters of chocolate liqueur, 2 centiliters of cherry syrup, half a centiliter of hazelnut syrup, and 2 centiliters of vodka. So good luck with that. Mix ingredients into a blender and pour into a cocktail glass, and then add red currants and chocolate flakes and a mint leaf for a garnish, if you would like to do so. Mr. Jason, what is your cocktail?
It is called the Clan Quinlan. It's sort of based on another drink recipe I found, trying to mimic a sort of honeyed mead with Jack Daniel's honey, alcoholic ginger beer, and lemonade, equal parts of all three.
Okay, that's sort of like okay, I can see how that.
Also, 2 centiliters is a little over a half ounce.
A little over half ounce, okay.
7 ounces.
Just go with a half ounce.
Yeah, it is.
Just make it boozy as all hell.
Generous half
or
ounce.
Or go with a full ounce.
Yeah.
Go full ounce. Why not?
You never go full ounce.
Never go full ounce. Okay, Mr. Todd, what is your cocktail?
So mine is calling it the Valifax Wassail. Now, this is really my own recipe I've been working on over the years. And
Then you want to give away your secret recipe?
Dude, life's not a zero-sum game.
That's true.
Everything, boats, tide raises all ships.
It's got to live on.
So if you have something that will make this drink better, email us, and then it will be a group effort. We will make this the greatest cocktail ever.
But this thing is, so it's a wassail recipe. It's kind of in a similar vein as Jason's was here. So we're gonna go that. You start with a gallon of apple juice, and you want to put this in a big old stock pot. And then you're going to grab a handful of Jamaican allspice berries, a big healthy handful, toss those in there, 4 cinnamon sticks, a big handful of cloves, and you want to grind the nutmeg, half a nut of nutmeg, fresh ground right into there. You want to take a small bottle of Dole pineapple juice and 4 ounces of orange juice. So you put all of that in there, you put a lid on top, set it on low, and ignore it for about 3 to 4 hours. And this will make a earthy, spicy wassail, and then you pour it into a glass, and then you can share it with all your teetotalers. And then when they have it for you, you go ahead and get some Baron Jaeger. It's actually a honey liqueur, and you put in Baron Jaeger to taste, and you serve it hot. So it's this hot, spicy, earthy wassail with a good honey kick on top of that. It is fantastic.
It is. Actually, you've made that for me before.
I have.
Very tasty.
Yeah. Yep.
It sounds good for the holidays.
It is great. So yeah, really, it's good stuff. You should do it.
Cool. And Mr. Maya, what is your cocktail?
So mine's called the Texas Twister. You're gonna take 2.5 to 3 ounces of tequila, 1.5 ounces of Grand Marnier, 1.5 to 2 ounces of fresh lime juice, a 1/4 pint of frozen limeade, 2 to 3 ounces of your favorite Mexican beer, and 2 to 3 ounces of your favorite wine, and mix all that with 2 cups of crushed ice in a blender, and blend until smooth, and pour into a chilled margarita glass, and garnish with a lime wedge.
Okay.
Parting thoughts.
Does anybody have any parting thoughts, last things that they want to discuss on this before we move on to final grades and all that kind of stuff?
I mean,
I think we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really fantastic. The art and the writing really just sang together. It's 6 issues, and it goes by fairly quickly, even as you're reading it. And it does a good job of having you want more, but you're just like, it's a twist between a punch in the gut and, dude, fuck yeah, rock on. This thing is awesome.
Well, cool.
Type of video.
Metal.
Very metal. Well, then that leads us into grades.
Final grades.
So we will go for self-contained, which is a pretty easy grade to do since this is its own story at 6 issues, but whatever. It's our grade that we're going to give out.
Self-contained.
So for self-contained, what is your grade, Mr. Jason?
A.
Okay, shocking.
Beginning, middle, and end.
I know. Mr. Todd.
Hey! Yeah.
Mr. Adam.
A. Again, this was meant to be a one-shot, and it beautifully wraps up everything with a nice little bow.
Okay, I agree with Adam, so I'm going to go with an A as well. And Mr. Maya.
F.
Yeah? I figured you would. Just to be dissenting. Okay.
Writing grade.
So for writing for Mr. Donnie Cates, what is your grade, Mr. Maya?
A. I don't think it deserves anything less than an A.
Okay. Mr. Adam.
A as well. I mean, this was beautifully written. It's there to hit you in the feels, while at the same time having a fun adventure. Yeah. And as you've seen from the last 50 minutes of this episode, there's a lot to mine here.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of metaphors and a lot of stuff that you can apply to your own life.
And a Simpsons reference to boot.
Yeah,
it is.
Okay, Mr. Jason.
I would say A- only because I would have liked it if the wife character had a little bit more to her than just arguing with her husband.
That seems fair.
Yeah.
Busy in the kid.
But I do really love the twist of the sun god. I can't remember his name, but the fact that he comes in, you think he's going to just bust ass, and he actually has intelligent conversation with Emmett, and turns into a really nice character.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. I'm going to go with an A as well. I really, really like this book. And Mr. Todd, I know you're going to give it an F, but go ahead and say it anyway.
So we can give it an A. I can really imagine, because after this came on, he signed on his exclusive deal with Marvel. Mm-hmm. So there's one part of me, I don't know if it happened or not, but this was his application.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, do you think this guy can get the job? Because he's writing everything. He did Cosmic Ghost Rider. He's been writing Thanos. He's doing Venom.
Because Marvel lost a lot of their writers to DC.
They did. He's writing a whole bunch of stuff, and good for him. But it was just one of the things, like, who should we hire? And you hire this fucking guy.
Yeah.
Because what, have you read the 6 issues? He understands structure and storytelling and encapsulating and yet continuing and having. Yeah, it felt very big and did a great job, and it could have gone elsewhere. And even with all the side characters of the epic side characters between the ghoulish, the king himself, and then the son, if he wanted to have fleshed this out into a much larger thing, there was room to do so. So, yeah, I mean, this is one of the job applications to be.
Okay.
Hey.
Art grade.
So for art for the team, let's get their actual names here. I just have their first names on this thing. So for Jeff Shaw for art, Jason Wordy for color, John J. Hill for letters and design, and the variant covers are done by Geraldo Zaffino. What is your grade for art, Mr. Jason?
A+.
Mr. Adam.
I'm going to go with an A. I mean, it's fantastic. It really brings you in. It's fantastic. There's so much going on with the creepy demons, and then Valifax, and you've got your your Centurion hero guy who's unfortunately having to fight against Grandpa. And as much as the writing is a gut punch, the way they portray the emotions on the characters is the same way.
Cool. Mr. Todd.
Oh, it's an A. I absolutely love this thing. It makes me go, what else has this guy drawn?
Yeah.
And thing is, we should find that.
Okay. And Mr. Maya.
Surprise, surprise, it's an A.
Okay, and I'm going to also go with an A. Shocking no one.
I know, right?
Final grades.
Well, so for overall grades, I'm sure this is going to be very shocking for everyone, but we're going to go for it anyway. For overall grades, we'll go with Mr. Adam. What is your grade?
A.
Okay.
No, it's a fantastic book. I can see why Todd's been recommending it for so long. And it's one of the ones that I wish I would have read earlier, because it's one that I would love to go back and revisit and just kind of, again, there's so much to mine out of it that I know I'll get a different experience probably every time I read it. So
cool. Mr. Jason.
It's an easy A. It's a simple story, well told, but it does so with a lot of depth and unexpected turns. And like we said before, the art is just fantastic. The fact that there's violet and fuchsia in the world of always, or the kingdom of always, is great.
Okay. Mr. Todd.
Yeah, it's an A.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Hey.
What else could it be?
I know, it's true. Well, I'm going to also give it an A for, the same reason as everybody else. I don't even think I'm going to have to do the math on the GPAs here, but we're going to find out with Mr. Maya's grade.
B+.
Really?
No. It's an A.
What? Word keelhaul.
I just wanted to make Brian do math. No,
I know. I figured that would happen.
Grade point average.
So then also gives us an overall GPA of a 4.0 or an A. Shocking no one.
There was an A- in there.
There wasn't an A-.
There was. I gave A- for writing. Yeah.
Oh, I only total up the total grades.
That's fine.
I don't do individual grades.
I think it was offset by my A+ in art. So
yeah. So there you go.
I wasn't here for this, but for those of you guys that did Wicked and Divine, does this rank better or slightly less than Wicked and Divine? No equal.
So Wicked and Divine is still our gold standard, and it's because and actually I was talking with Brian the other day. I was upset because Wicked and Divine's the only thing in my hold right now, and I went to go catch up on them because I have about 12 issues to catch up on, and I was missing like 25 through 30. I was like, where the fuck are these? And I was so upset, so I jumped in like in the mid-30s. In the middle of the story arc, I knew what the fuck was going on. So I was like, I might just give it up. And Brian's like, no, it's wrapping up soon.
Did you find those issues?
I did, yeah.
They were on the table.
They were on the table with the Power Ranger ones. I'm going to put Wicked and Divine above, just because the amount of detail and world building in that, while this does do a great job of world building, it's Wicked and Divine just takes us to the next level. So that's still my gold standard for...
I would also say, just for my personal vote, I think Wicked and Divine has a little more depth as far as story. Now, granted, it's going longer, so it has that benefit.
Now, keep in mind, I'm just asking Volume 1 of Wicked and Divine versus just this. I
would say Wicked and Divine was still above.
I still love Wicked and Divine, but it's a very close, like, Razor's Edge vote. They also just have very different vibes. Like, I mean... Depending on the mood that you're in that day, it could go either way, in my personal opinion. Everybody said everything they want to say about this? Anybody else want to vote on the Wicked and Divine versus God Country?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Next week on Funny Books on Firewater.
So next week we are doing a book that I've recommended to lots of people, so we're finally going to read it. We are doing Underwater Welder, which is about a young man, probably not, a man in his mid-30s.
33.
Yeah, he's 33.
That's a young man.
Okay, he's a young man. He is feeling the pressures, both figuratively and literally, of becoming a new father and also being a welder underwater. And it's also the anniversary of his father's death. And it's sort of, there's a description at the beginning by Damien Lindelof in his foreword that describes it as being like a Twilight Zone episode, which I think is very valid. Sorry, what was that?
I'll just agree.
Okay. So we'll be reading that next week.
Recommendations.
So for recommendations, who wants to go first?
As we record this, came out
Damn it, that was me, mine.
4 or 5 days ago. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu or Let's Go Eevee for the Nintendo Switch is awesome. It's a very casual version of Pokemon Yellow that was originally released on the Game Boy. So it's the original game, just kind of redone for the Switch, and I think that it may be like the bare bones, kind of the framework for what they're going to use for future games on the Switch, but I absolutely love it.
I am going to recommend, since we just read a book from Donny Cates, a different independent book he did. It's a vampire book set in the South called Redneck. I read the first trade. I've started the second trade, but I really enjoyed it as well. So if you like the writing in this book, it's different, but I think you'll still appreciate it. It's not quite as heart-wrenching, but it's still a fun and interesting read. Has a similar vibe to American Vampire, but I think for the earlier works of American Vampire, I think it's better. I liked American Vampire as it got later in the book. This stuff so far is sort of a better, stronger vibe. It also has a little bit of True Blood, so if you're into that kind of thing, it would probably be a really fun book for you to read. Mr. Todd, do you have any recommendations?
On Snapchat, one of the channels, things you can look at is dad jokes. And this thing just makes me laugh. I mean, I was watching it today, and John Cena told the dad joke, and the joke was, what do you call a father trying to prevent his daughter from having sex?
A father?
And the whole pop blocker.
Oh, wow.
So the whole point of the channel is this one guy, you tell a joke and then the other guy has to listen to it, but he can't laugh. If he laughs, then the guy telling the joke gets a point. So it's about a dozen jokes, goes back and forth, and whoever gets the most points win. But if you laugh at your own joke, the other team gets a point. So you've got to deliver it deadpan and stay deadpan, and the other person has to say absolute deadpan. And they're hilarious, and they're awful, and they're tag teaming, so people tag team in and out, so they can recompose. But it's, it's stupid, funny stuff. Dad jokes on Snapchat. It's awesome.
Okay. Mr. Jason, do you have any recommendations?
Yeah. Not sure if this has been mentioned before, but the Witcher book series, I've been reading it for a while. They're just fantastic, in the same vein as Game of Thrones we mentioned earlier, but with a little bit more humor to them, actually. I might actually enjoy these books just a little bit more.
Is that the same universe as the Witcher video games?
The games are based on the book series, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. But they're terrific books.
And Mr. Adam?
It was me, Pokemon, so...
Oh, I was giving you time. I put you last so you could come up with something else just in case. But okay.
Also, the one thing that's I'm going to get back into is there was a game called Warframe that came out for the PS4. It was a free-to-play shooter, and it just came out on the Switch. And the cool thing with this game is that they've really worked on it to expand it. I'm getting back into it now, but when it first came out, it was just kind of like a running gun type thing. And now it's kind of more in the vein of like Overwatch or Diablo 3, where you're constantly grinding for new guns and stuff. And the cool thing is it's going to be on Switch, so you can take it with you. And it's 100% free to play. Of course, there's microtransactions. You can, download stuff. But it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. So that'll do it for this week. So next week, please join us for Underwater Welder for episode 140.
So who
Holy cow.
Welder?
Jeff Lemire.
Oh, sorry. It's Jeff Lemire, my boyfriend.
Okay.
Andrew.
He drew it too?
He drew it, yes. It is his art as well.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah. Yes. The love of my comic book life, Mr. Jeff Lemire. We're going to do a book by my boyfriend that is not Animal Man and is actually good.
You should read his run on Superboy. It was really good.
Oh, really?
It was pre-New 52.
Okay. I'll have to check that out. I have a whole shelf of... Well, it's Jeff Lemire and Matt Kint has their own special shelf because they're both writers/artists who do interesting work. Cool. Well, so I think that'll do it for this week. And so, yeah, we will see you next time with Underwater Welder. Bye.
Bye.
So that happened. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode. This band of knuckleheads will be back next week with a new episode. Until then, you can find them on Facebook, Instagram, and Tumblr as Funny Books and Firewater, and on Twitter as @FirewaterCast. Go to funnybooksandfirewater.com for the most up-to-date information, as well as cocktail recipes from this and past episodes. Thank you for joining us. And until next week, support your local comic shop, tip your bartender well, and stay hydrated.